Welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Club. This week, we're going to review episode 3 of The Acolyte. And I just want to kind of start it off with a question. Do you feel, do we here as a group and individually feel that episode 3 of The Acolyte has rewritten the lore of Star Wars? Has it rewritten so much of what George Lucas tried to create? What do you guys think? Because it seems like there was an attempt made to sort of undermine a lot of the stuff that's been done to this point. Things like the Chosen One, things like, Immaculate Conception, things like
That's
that.
a surprise to me, frankly, because I know that Greedo and I were talking about this before. He said that there were a lot of people that were upset about that, and that didn't occur to me. I mean, you've had at least not maybe in the movies, but in expanded universe and in Clone Wars, you've had other Force users. You've had groups. I mean, I don't see this group of witches that are Force users as being anything particularly new because in the expanding universe, they've had tons of different groups and
We got
individuals that
plenty. Yeah,
use the Force in different
you've got the Night
ways.
Sisters and
Yeah.
groups like that.
So I don't understand where that's coming from. And then the thing about them using the Force to create life is that's a Darth Plagueis thing. So somebody ought to be able to do that. If one can find it and others find it, it to me is kind of more an interesting expansion on that possibility of the Force. If you could use it to create life without natural procreation and somebody else beside Dark Plagueis did it, or maybe this is even leading into Dark Plagueis. I don't know. So that didn't, I mean, that was, that's kind of surprised to me that people think that's so far off base because it seems like it's really connected to a lot of the lore that's already out there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's part of the problem is it's connected to the lore that's already out there, but it is not coming from the same source. And this is the same sort of thing that has happened before when things have come out, like in the sequel trilogy that made Anakin useless as the chosen one because the Emperor lived.
Yeah.
People were, I didn't go and see the movie and think that at first, when Palpatine was back. That wasn't my first thought. Was, well, I guess Anakin's useless now.
I didn't either.
But a lot of people, that was their first thought. They're very upset by it. I can see their point. It was a cheap stunt that wasn't worth watering down the original story for, probably. So Anakin, not Anakin, doesn't really matter. It was a cheap stunt, so it probably shouldn't have been done, in my opinion. This, I have no idea what their intent was. So to say they're trying to rewrite Star Wars, I kind of doubt it. I think it's someone trying to draw upon things they've seen and trying to pull
Yeah.
different things that they want, that inspire them to try something cool with. But also, we haven't seen the whole thing, so nothing's been
Yeah.
That is
explained at
true. That's a
all
good
in the
point.
Yeah.
show so far. This could be Plagueis training an apprentice to go out and check on his experiments. It could be failed. This could end up being one of his failed experiments. It ends up leading to the one that succeeds, which, but then again, did Plagueis have anything to do with creating Anakin? Because that's been said and then shot down and said and shot down, and Sidious and said and shot down. So I don't even know. So anyway, I think the problem might be that there's a lot of issues and problems with the writing, and that leaves it open for criticism. And also, people may feel like it isn't approached respectfully enough, like too casually approaching some of this stuff that is core to them. We're original trilogy. I never heard of the Chosen One prophecy until 1999 or whatever.
Well, that's
So
when he created it.
that's when he created it. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
retcon, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
people like to
it
go
was
back
an
and think he had
expansion.
all of this in his mind
Yeah.
50 years ago, and he didn't,
And it's the Chosen One is like a handful of lines in the prequel, 3 movies.
Yeah.
Is it that important, really? I don't even think Lucas thought it was all that important. I think he threw it in as kind of expansion nuance to put something in the prequels so that the Jedi would be kind of, be blindsided by what happened. But he didn't sit there and show Anakin rise up as a ghost and go, chosen one, prophecy fulfilled. They didn't explain it, so people still debate whether it was Luke or Anakin was the chosen one. does it even matter? The goal was to
Yeah.
get rid of the Sith, bring balance to the Force. That's what happened.
The what? The what?
So
The you mean the thread?
the thread, yes,
Yeah, it's
we
not the
bring
force. I don't know where
the
this force is coming from. We
well,
have
if
a
you
whole new
pull the
name for
thread
it now.
hard enough, you end up with a hole in your sweater. So that's all it
Yeah.
is.
I don't know.
Uh,
I was so confused when you were saying the force. I'm like, what is
yeah, the
that?
Force is
Never
the
heard of that
thread.
before.
What do you think, Caroline? Because I'm with her that this stuff just didn't. It seemed like much ado about nothing to me,
Yeah.
unless they blow it up or unless they go forward saying everything you knew was wrong and these people are right. I just don't think they're going to take that kind of stand. I think it's
I
just
don't think
I
they
don't
have the
either.
guts to go that far. No, I agree.
no.
No.
And I do agree to an extent that yeah, sure, it's a lot to do about nothing. Also, Greedo, your point made, before we were recording about, nothing, gains clicks like anger, and
Anger, hatred, suffering.
anger and suffering. Yeah. So the dark side is swimming in clicks.
Yeah. Well,
But
people are also looking for direction. I
mhm.
think a lot of fans are feeling something bad. They're like, it's like when Shmi said there was no father. I felt creeped out in the theater, but I didn't know exactly why. I was just like, really, he's freaking space Jesus now. I
Mhm.
just didn't expect it to go there. And so then you go like reading articles to try to explain this weird feeling you have, and
Mhm.
it's easy to get drawn into, oh, this is all some dark conspiracy, negative, 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 negative. And I get it. It's not. This isn't the show I wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
I
come out and say
agree.
that.
And
Yeah.
with your take on that, I totally agree. I remember sitting in the theater for the Phantom Menace, and that line hit me really weird.
Yeah,
It really
you and me
did.
both.
I remember being very disappointed. Going,
Yeah, it was. I
what?
was like,
L-
wah, wah, you
Yeah, it
gotta be
was kind
kidding
of a
me.
wah
I heard an
wah
audible
moment.
gasp the first time we saw it from a lot
Uh-huh.
of people
Yeah,
around us.
yeah.
They were like
Yeah.
that because some people like they couldn't believe he was going there because it's almost sacrilegious, to be
Hmm.
saying it to that audience, American audience member. I didn't even think of it that way. I just thought he's really putting a lot on the myths here,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and just randomly throwing out elements of the myth that people may not take too well. But we just didn't. I think I underestimated his give a damn. It was
Yeah, I
busted.
mean,
He wanted to do what he wanted to do, and more power to
no,
him.
that's true. And George Lucas has always leaned into the power of myth. I mean, that's what Star
Right.
Wars is built on. But yeah, I think
It's not the power of many.
people
It's the power of men, not the power of one, two, or many.
it's
Sorry.
definitely not. But I just feel like you're saying people thought it was a step too far when he took it into that sort of almost Christian area of, oh, this is now, like you said, space
Yeah.
Jesus,
It was an
that's
adjustment because we had waited 20 years
mhm.
to hear more about the Jedi in a spiritual manner, like Yoda addressed it or Obi-Wan addressed it. And
And
here
instead
he
we get
came out with,
midichlorians.
yeah, we get spiritual, we get mythological stuff in a direction that is we didn't expect at all. And then we get this pseudoscience midichlorian stuff, which is
Yeah.
like introducing a whole thing of like you're not special unless you have this other,
The
and
stuff in your blood.
it seemed like he was
Mhm.
really going to go for these themes of organisms have to work together to live. That like the first movie was full of that, and then he kind of backed off that a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, and this one they seem to be saying doubling down on the force is not a power you have. It's more of the life around you and whether you embrace that correctly or not. And it's not a power, but then they say that, but then they use the power of the force in the same show. So I don't know. I'm not sure
It's
what
Yeah,
the
and they
message
it's
was.
used
it's
they
it
used
seems
it in the
contradictory. Yeah.
they used it
Yeah.
in the training where they used it telekinetically, and
Hmm.
to fight off attackers and to attack, So
Sure.
yeah, I'm not right after saying it's not a power to be used, and then
Yeah.
so that was kind of
But
weird.
you can influence things to go the way you want them to, which seems like I'm using
Yeah,
a power, when you pull on the thread. But I do think there's a message there of balance still.
yeah, I
They
do
didn't make
too.
it real clear, but I feel like the one kid is out of balance and using the power on whim, and the other one is like buying into what is looking like more and more of a myth of altruism, and saying, I want
Yeah.
to serve a greater good with this power that I have.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, no. My short answer is no. I don't think they broke Star Wars or rewrote the Force or anything like that. I don't get it. It's just,
I yeah.
I gotta see the rest of it to even start to put it in context.
Yeah, my
But
my answer is I don't know yet because, like you
yeah,
said, we haven't seen the
Yeah.
end of it yet. I need to see the rest of the series to really make my own judgment call on that, I think.
there were some
I
clumsy
don't see the
callbacks in
point.
there.
What's that?
I said there were some clumsy callbacks in there, like when they reuse the words unnatural. I mean,
Hmm.
they've
Yeah.
lifted the words directly from the Revenge of the Sith script and from
Right.
other
Yeah.
scripts, and it was like, hey, we're Star Wars fans. You don't have to do that. You know, you don't have to use the exact wording for us to get where you're going. You know,
Right.
and
We're not that
so
slow. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that stuff was hard to put into context because um, that implies that they're using the dark side of the force as far as all of everything that we've known about the force. And yet they didn't seem real dark sidey. They seemed like a cult, but they weren't a cult. They allowed people to leave. You know,
Yeah.
there was no
Yeah.
commitment to anything there. It seemed
Hmm.
more like Wiccans or something. You know,
Yeah.
which people with a different religious belief might look at them as evil, but they look at themselves as trying to be in tune with nature, you know. So I just didn't understand where they were going with all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I did like the head witch, what was the Mother Anisha? Is that her name? The
I think
mother
Something
so.
like
of
that. Yeah.
the one who created the twins. The actress was really good.
Actress
I
did a
like
good job, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I thought
Yeah.
that was and I liked her
She looked good
kind of
too. Her whole
yeah, all of the whole production values and everything were
yeah.
really cool. The location was neat. Um, and I liked her take on letting the girls, she wanted to teach the girls what she thought was right. And she said, you're what to OSHA, you're wanting to leave because you're young right now. But then she let the decision be up to her.
Hmm.
So it's almost like the witches, even though they're witches and you might think of like the witches of Dathomir, that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw them, that they might be more like that. They come across as more positive overall, especially once the Jedi enter the scene. And then it's almost like the Jedi are the invaders.
Hmm.
They're, coming in to their domain where it
Right.
sounds like that they were persecuted and they ran away and hid on this planet that's
I don't
outside of
know.
the realm of the
That whole thing
Republic.
made no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah, I know.
It really didn't
Except
make much sense.
I began thinking about it though, and afterward it did. I mean, we know they're not just one race. By looking at the coven,
Yeah.
they're made of different Star Wars races from
Hmm.
around the
Right.
galaxy. But if they were a religious group that were persecuted because of their religion and they are eliminated, they're being killed or whatever, and so they run away and go into exile, maybe they can't recruit other people. And maybe if they find a way to create life, maybe the best way to carry forward their covenant is to procreate. I mean, I'm almost thinking
Well,
like
that's a
what
stretch.
cults do though, like when they withdraw into their compounds and stuff, and then they're having babies and everything, and
Right.
they're creating
But
families that are
but they
caught in that
didn't they
cult.
didn't explain what the significance of these twins were. They did an
No,
ascension ceremony, but it really seemed like there was a lot more at stake than just ascending to being your average witch. Like they
yeah,
said, this is miraculous. We're saved. We were on the brink of extinction. Well, what were they going to use those twins for? Were they
yeah, I
just
don't know.
replenishing two spots in their ranks? I mean, but it has to be more than that. They have to be like the two leaders. They
And
were.
they
It's
made
like she was
them,
transferring power into them and stuff. And
yeah,
like
and they
they
made
like, are
them
you going to
vow.
carry on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
vow
my
to carry on
position.
my legacy, vow to carry on our legacy after my
So
death, is what she
that
made them
was
Hmm.
vow.
real. That just didn't make sense to me. It's like, and like I told you guys, it's like if you're a coven or a bunch of warlocks, if you're one sex and you can't procreate, are you surprised that you're facing extinction? Is that such a big shock? I mean,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So then you have to use extreme measures like coming up with
The
forced test tube
unnatural.
babies. Yeah,
The
there
unnatural.
are other options available as far as we know. I mean, so it really wasn't explained to where we
Hmm.
were just supposed to take a lot on faith, I think, and fill in the gaps with our own imagination, and it did not make sense to me. So,
No,
Yeah. So,
no, I
but
agree.
I thought
I'll
the
go on
place
record.
the
I'll go on
place
record
was
real
cool.
quick.
The witches were the actresses playing them were fine. The place looked good, production values were good, but still, yeah, like
That
it
hasn't been the
was
problem on the show, though.
no,
No.
no,
Production
no.
values have been fine. Yeah.
Right. The story is what's the suffering. So
No, I thought the motivations of everyone involved was very murky. They didn't define what the Jedi were there for or what they were going to do. Like if faced with a choice of the kids saying, we passed the test, but we do not want to go, and we're older than average, do they force them to go or not? The issue seemed to be that they were being taught to use the Force by people other than the Jedi, which is what are they going to do? Write them a ticket? Issue a fine. So none of that was explained, except the witches were afraid they were going to be taken, and the Jedi were afraid of being accused of overreaching their power and taking it. But I still don't know what their, like what the set rules are or what. So the stakes were pretty hard to define. The whole thing just was really murky, and I wanted to say my the interpretive dance scene is gonna go down as one of my least
I
favorite
could do without that too.
That was painful.
That was horrible.
I could do without that too.
One of the most cringe-worthy scenes in the history of Star Wars.
I really hope that's what they were going for, because they succeeded. But
they sure did, and they doubled down on it too.
It was an abject failure, in my opinion. But interpretive dance, I'm a huge fan.
We know you are.
So
you have an allergy
not to appeal to me. It had to be really weird, and it was really weird. I was uncomfortable watching it.
I was too. I was like, ooh, okay.
I feel like someone just turned these actors loose, like they just came out of a class or something, and somebody said, "Hey, there was an exercise in my acting class. Let's all do this." And then they all start doing Dragon Ball. It's like I saw this in an anime, the Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball
moves. All right, switching gears a little bit. So what do we think happened to the one Jedi? The Jedi, I'm terrible with the names. The one who committed suicide in episode 2. Torben, yeah. So he looked very, very different in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly same actor, and he's from Game of Thrones. I don't know if you remember, he was like Tommen or whatever, one of the kings. He's from
recognize
Game of Thrones.
him. Oh yeah.
But but in this he didn't have, and I think Greedo and I were talking during the week, and he said that he noticed that I'd forgotten about the scar, and the scar was not there on this show, and his hair was a lot fuller, and he was
much younger.
He didn't have a glue-on, beard.
Yeah.
Until the last scene, he did have the scars in the last scene.
And see, that's why I haven't gone. I can't make myself go back and watch it.
It's very much in the background, and I guess I could be mistaken, like it could be a shadow, but it didn't look like it. It looked like a line of a bunch of black lines.
I would bet that's how he got named, was in whatever they did, whatever happened.
They never did show exactly what happened. They just showed the start of it.
The scars on his face. Yeah, when you see him, he's scarred, and you know that he has to make absolution for something that he did. You just assume the scars are connected to the whatever he did. Yeah, so sure. I think you're right that they're probably. I need to go back and rewatch it again, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see.
And I also want to say a lot of the negative reactions and criticism I'm seeing of the show, not a lot of them, but at least a lot of this episode is based on the fact that we haven't seen the rest of it yet. So they're saying, like, it makes no sense that May set this fire and suddenly, the rocks are burning and everything's exploding. It's like, yeah, but we didn't see what happened. That she was beyond the door, and it switched point of view purposefully, and spent time with the other character who doesn't know what happened. She's blank slate there. So we never got to see the full picture from either point of view. We didn't get to see what the Jedi were doing. Suddenly Sol was just there. What was he doing there? Something killed the witches. They didn't look burned.
Yep.
The witches were killed, but not in the fire.
That's the other thing. They just immediately showed that suddenly they're all just laying there dead. It's like,
I think there's things that don't make sense because we haven't seen the other points of view yet. Also, there's that strong possibility that Sol was influencing this child to kind of smooth over what she saw. Accept that they're dead. There's nothing to go back for. We're going to protect you now. Your sister started a fire. It's unfortunate, but she's gone. And kind of maybe used his mental powers, or at least his power as a trusted friend and mentor, to smooth over the stuff that if she thinks too hard on it wouldn't make sense, because they showed her looking around, like seeing bodies, and it's like, how does that make sense with a fire? So if they don't explain that stuff, then yeah, all the criticism is true. But I think a lot of people are jumping on to criticize when the story isn't finished yet. But
True.
I will say there's plenty there to criticize. I mean, almost none of it made sense to me.
Agreed.
I could follow it, but it was very weak. It was like
And did anybody
story.
else wonder why in the world Soul is handing one of the most deadliest weapons in the
Oh, to
galaxy
the kid
to
that
like an 8-year-old? Like, here,
yeah.
play with this. Like,
I love Saul, but every episode
It
he
has a
takes another
safety
hit from me.
on. It has
it
a
has the
safety.
safety on
Come on.
lightsabers with a
Come
safety.
on. He's worked with
Well,
younglings.
she also even kind of pointed it back at him. I was like, "Ooh, Soul,
Yeah.
watch out!" You know.
Come on, he trains younglings, and younglings do lightsabers, so he's got to know what
Yeah,
he's
with
doing.
training, they don't start out day one with a
Yeah,
full-on
but
lightsaber.
he put on the safety.
He
So
put on the safety.
give him some
I will
credit.
say, his youngling record as far as how many survive his training is kept by the Jedi, so there's no way to know
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
how good he is with the
Yeah.
Jedi.
Yes.
But no, I honestly, he's so sincere and so emotive and everything that sometimes he gives me the creeps with
Yeah.
the kids,
Mhm.
like
This is the first
because
episode in which his sincerity really bothered me because I felt like it was almost not only manipulative, but I felt like almost like he was manipulating himself.
Right.
Like he
yes,
was like when he said, "We Jedi don't take children," it's the
mhm.
he does
But here,
protest too
play with
much,
my saber.
methinks,
Yeah.
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 So I don't know. I don't know that he feels comfortable with his own motivations, that he may be trying to justify what he's doing too much to himself. But I wonder, is he more nefarious now that I've been interpreting him? Is he
Yeah.
really truly earnest, or
Mhm.
is there something else going on there? So I think that development is interesting. I want to see where they'll go
Yeah, I
with
hope
that
they
with the
explore
character.
that. And
Yeah.
I want to say real quick too, another thing that could turn all this on its ear, which I don't think will happen because it's way too complicated, and the show I don't think is going to deliver on all these promises. But if the Sith are behind these twins, and the witches were deceived into thinking their stuff worked, when actually the Sith was behind it, just like possibly a Sith was behind Shmi and she didn't know. Now there's another interpretation that it was just the Force, but in other words, they could be manipulated in an experiment. They're messing around with the dark side, could have got the attention, or with whatever alternate side, whatever you would call it, could have got the attention of the Sith, or the Sith could be involved somehow. And if everybody was deceived, and it's sort of like the Sith create these, using these experiments to advance whatever their agenda is, and they create these semi-powerful children that then wreak havoc amongst everyone. That would
mhm.
just work to their benefit.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
like
100%.
Yeah.
That's a good
yeah, it's like
theory.
saying the
Yeah.
Jedi are vulnerable to children. They're vulnerable. This is their weak spot, is people don't like them taking kids anymore or something. So we create these kids, we create this problem, and we let everybody play their parts. And if you're a mastermind and you
Mhm.
play on the weaknesses fulfill themselves. I mean, that's one way that criticism could be turned around, was like, this didn't really redefine the Force. These people just believed in it, but they were actually manipulated. But I don't think that's the case. I think they were using some form of either the magic or the Force or something. The possession of the Jedi really confused me.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, that was
And
strange.
it was Torben who was possessed too, which is
Um,
interesting.
which is going to leave him a
So
potential out as well if he does something bad. Because
Right.
what
yeah,
some of these sisters might not be accounted for. Like I said, I couldn't find the Zabrak mother in the
yeah.
bodies.
Oh, okay.
And so what if one of them possessed him to do something aggressive that set off the fire or
So she
whatever?
was the one who
He
was
blames
wanting to
himself.
kill. She was the one who was wanting to kill the Jedi, the
Right.
Zabrak witch.
Hmm.
So yeah, ooh, I
I liked
hadn't
that
even
line. I
thought
said,
of that.
nobody will miss four of these bums. That was very funny.
All right,
So
do we
let me
want
ask
to,
one other question.
yeah.
Do you think that Soul saved the wrong twin? Are the twins like opposite now, or
I
is
brought
it
that up
actually
when we were
Osha
talking
that he
about it
saved?
because because there's almost no reason to have twins unless you're going to pull something at some point.
Yeah,
It's like such a weird convention to pull out, unless you're going to do something with it. Now, the original Star Wars did nothing with it.
Yeah.
But it was like a leftover idea. Luke was supposed to have a sister who was going to train the Force, and they ran out of time. And he said, "Oh, it's Leia,"
Yeah.
But anyway, I watched that again, and the only way that could be the case is if she is remembering things incorrectly. And we are seeing more of her point of view at that point in time. But that is
true.
very weak way to go about it, because there's no definition of whose point of view exactly we're seeing that from. So I don't believe so, because they point at each other literally and go, Osha May, Osha May.
Yeah,
And then May goes in the hole and Osha goes in a second later, and Sol did whatever weird thing he did where he sort of slowed her fall enough with the Force to grab her hand. Anyway, I don't know why he didn't just grab her with the Force and pull her up, or why he didn't grab them both.
Both.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about that, because
can we just stay away from catwalks?
We didn't see we didn't see the outcome of May's test with the Jedi either. They were careful not to show that. They showed Osha's test, but not May's test, which I thought was interesting. So were they planning on taking only one of them, or were they planning on trying to take both? I mean, why didn't
I would assume they were going to take both.
Yeah.
I think just my speculation is that the Jedi went in at night thinking these witches are going to do something to defy us. They're dangerous. The one kid's lying to us. We've uncovered that they're lying to. I think somebody decided to be aggressive, probably against the wishes of one or more of them, whoever's leading. And they go in and they say, "Let's kill the lights," and then go grab the kids.
It's probably Indara, and Torben was her Padawan, so he would probably be in on it too.
Somehow, when they messed with the generator, they hit the one, button that seems to be in every single massive villain hideout, which is the self-destruct button. They just hit that instead, and it set off the chain reaction.
And the generator had the symbol on it that is the tattoo that Osha later put on her arm.
It's Acme.
Acme. Okay, we better do our ranking because we're running out of time. The Carillion has to take off and get some smuggling done.
I have some smuggling to do today. Yeah. I'll go first.
Okay, do it.
As much as I want to give this episode a 0, I'm going to give it a 1.
Oh, the power of
1.
Can we see your 1 with the power of 2? Does anyone have power of 2?
No, you cannot. If this weren't a family-friendly show, I'd show you how many I give.
I think so much is up in the air that it's hard to judge this without seeing the rest. But it was a huge step in the wrong direction for me personally. But I'm still interested in watching the rest. I'm going to watch the rest and everything, and I want to see how this pans out. But I'm just going to say like a 4.5.
I'm sticking with a 5, like I did with last time, because I still am intrigued by the mystery. I do want to know about it, but that's really the most interesting thing to me. That overall, it still seems just mediocre. There's nothing that really stands out too much.
I have to take back one Kadam. I have to take back one Kadam.
I took back 4. So.
Yeah,
I took back 4 Kadams.
For the thread. God.
No, I'm still at a 5.
Between the catwalk and the interpretive dance, I got to be at a 4 at the most.
That's okay.
Because 5 is the middle. Five is like,
yeah,
there's a lot of room for improvement. It's not very good, but
my allergy to interpretive dance isn't as strong as yours is, so I was like, okay, it was over with quickly.
Yeah,
so
I had to take allergy medicine that knocked me out.
I know.
Was it over with quickly? It felt like it went for about an hour.
They just kept counting. It was like I said, it was Sesame Street for Star Wars. 1, 2, the power of 2.
Many.
Yeah. And I want to say also, anybody who has twins and dresses them and has their hair done and everything down to the minute detail exactly the same way, F you,
Yeah. And not only when you're 8, but when you're in your 20s.
But this
episode,
same clothes, same
they were
hairdo.
facing each other, and I was like, oh, that one's got a torn cuff. And I was like, oh wait, no, it's fur sticking out. And the other one had the same fur on both. I was like, they are literally exactly the same. Down to it's like,
Oh, wow.
I know they said it in the dialogue, but I didn't, you could still wear something slightly different.
At least we didn't have to suffer Chaka this episode.
Chaka.
From Land of the Lost.
Yeah, from last episode, that last scene.
He's
Got the
gonna hold
Chaka
some
cameo.
secret though. He's gonna hold some secret though. You saw him looking, and he was
Yeah.
trying to talk. He
Yeah.
was trying to talk to them, like, "Hey kid, get the heck out of here!" These guys are bad news. They're talking behind your back. Jedi are bad news.
Oh, that's too funny.
I just fixed this. I don't get involved in this stuff. But no, I have a feeling he witnessed something, but I don't know. I'm getting tired of there's so many red herrings in this. Like, if they don't follow up on the possession and they don't follow up on, there's just so many things that just seem to go nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
we'll
to there to
just
make
have
you
to
try to think
see.
of dead ends, if the twins thing ends up being just a big nothing burger, that's going to be really hard to accept.
Yeah, that's not going to be yeah.
But I don't think anybody was expecting them to have been created by a cult by the Force. That
No, that
really,
was a
really out of left
surprise.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard the tragedy of
Although I was expecting Darth
the power
Plagueis,
of many?
because this is around Darth Plagueis' time. So I was expecting maybe Darth Plagueis might be in here. So I didn't know if that might be a connection to Darth Plagueis, but still, that was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
It was an
So I don't know.
off Broadway musical. It closed in one night.
Okay. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this week. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and let us know your rating. Where do you think this is going? Did this take you out of it for good? I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Let us know.
there's people saying Star Wars is dead. It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's over the top. It's over the
Give
top.
us
Relax.
an interpretive dance review.
Exactly. All right. We'll see you next week.
I
Hopefully
give
with
this
better
a
news.
1.
Power of 2.
Yeah.
The power of many. It was literally like it was like one of those Monty Python.
I think Carillion had a stroke.
I'm having a stroke.
I am having.
That would explain a lot, actually.